Ayesha Ismail, who's been at the Grand Parade and at St Georges Cathedral since Monday, and she's been following what's going on there. Just remember that the Archbishop's body is lying in state. It has been for 2 days in a closed casket at St Georges Cathedral. Ayesha, where exactly are you now, and what's been happening?
So, Annika, we've now moved towards the end of Whale Street, on the corner of Whale and Queen Victoria, and this is where people exit the cathedral. So they go in from Government Avenue to go and pay their respects to the arch, and then they exit over here. So we're waiting on this side so that we can speak to some people to just find out, about their experience, about what it felt and meant to them to go and pay their last respects to the Archbishop. But what we did do, Annika, earlier, we stood in Government Avenue and spoke to some people while they were waiting to go in, and they were almost everybody that I spoke to said that they're here to come and pay tribute to a man of love, a man of God, a man of compassion, and a man that really and truly wanted justice for all. And what was also good to see was that families came with their children. They were saying they brought their children because they also want their children to understand and to accept what Archbishop Desmond Tutu meant for South Africans and the liberation of South Africa. But I'm now going to speak to a gentleman who's just been inside the cathedral. Sir, you went inside the cathedral to go and pay your respects. How did it feel going into the cathedral and seeing the coffin of Archbishop Desmond Tutu?
Yes. First of all, I'm the Deputy Mayor of the Theewaterskloof Municipality, and I'm here on behalf of the people of Theewaterskloof Municipality. I think this is one of the sad moments in our history because he's an icon. He was a freedom fighter, and he's a human being in his most perfect form. I think nobody will fill his position in society, and we're surely going to miss him. I think the feeling, the moment you enter the cathedral, you get that sadness because you feel that we lost a human being, a person that cared for others. Yeah, but we, on the end of the day, I believe he wants us to move on and make his legacy work. And as the people of Theewaterskloof, we will never forget his contribution towards our South African society, and we will always remember him for that.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you. Annika, and there again, people talking about what Archbishop Desmond Tutu meant to us as a nation, and also to people across the world. And it's also interesting how when I spoke to people in the queue, they were also saying, so what do we do now? We lost Madiba, we've now lost Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Who will take their positions? Who do we look after now? And it seems as if there is a political vacuum in South Africa, a vacuum in terms of leadership. But let me just stop here and speak to another, and so I can see that you are a member of the clergy.
Yes, I'm an Anglican priest, and I've been ordained in the cathedral about 24 years ago. And my experience of the arch is that when I presented myself for the ordained ministry, because we have a process in the church, and what stood out for me was many years ago, was that over 25 years ago, it was St Xavier Crawford, St Francis Xavier Crawford, where we presented ourselves to the bishop, for the archbishop, to test our vocation. And the one thing that stood out for me was that he was a man of prayer. So when he arrived, he disappeared and we had to find him. And the place I found him was in the chapel, praying very silently, and that is just my recollection of him. There's many others. And the other thing that stood out for me from him was he was a pastor of pastors. Remember those days when there was no email? He would send a fax, or what do they call the other thing? The other fax, but long before the fax.
A telex.
A telex. He would send that to everybody. Clergy wives, husbands, and he knew everybody by name. So in the morning when he got up at Bishop's Court, he would pray for all of us by name. And also before he leaves for any journey, he would actually pray in the car. And so for me, that was deep contemplative spirituality. There's many other things that I can tell you, but I just think that are the two things that actually stood out for me.
And, you know, a lot of the people that I spoke to said, what are we going to do now? There was almost like there was this sense of helplessness and hopelessness.
Yeah, you know, it's painful for us because we fought a struggle, and when our democracy came, it seemed that the church took a back seat. But where I live at the moment, I left Cape Town, so I'm in Northwest, amongst the poorest of the poor. And I think what Graça Marcel said yesterday, today is the day that we have to plant the seeds of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the father of the nation, you know, and his wife, Gogo Malia. And she was always alongside him. And when our children were little, she used to cuddle them. But what I'm saying is, your question is, for us, even if it's Muslims, even if it's Jews, because I come from District 6, you know, and so we had a multicultural diversity and multi-faith community. And so we need to now, even if it's the highest of the highest, we need to say to them, your time is up. We need to say to them, our people are suffering. And we need to say to them that the art said that he is passing it on to us to make this country work, you know.
And you're just talking now about Muslims and Jews and Christians living together side by side. And that is something that the Archbishop supported.
Yes. LGBT plus gay community, women to the ordination, they were the first, Wilma Jacobson and Margaret Virtue, you know. And he paved the way, although there were many opposition. But this cathedral of ours, it's a cathedral for the community. It's the cathedral of every faith community. You know, I went to school up here in the Burka, but my friends knew they were Muslim, but they knew I was an Anglican, and I never changed, because my family was also Muslim. But you know, we had respect for the Jews, whether you're Indian, whether you're from Islam, or you're Baha'i faith, and that is what the arts left us, and the legacy. This cathedral, when we had services, everyone was included. And that is why you saw the inauguration of Tata Mandela. You saw all of them there, the Imam, you know. And so for the next generation, they're struggling, but we need to tell them. It's not about black and white, but it's about human beings, you know. I don't speak to so much every time, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
I think it's your name again?
It's Ayesha.
Ayesha Ismail. Yes, God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. So, Annika, there you heard all those wise words from a member of the clergy and the priest saying that he was ordained in this church 25 years ago, talking about, you know, what it was like living in District 6, having to move from District 6, and also talking about the interfaith community and how important that is. And of course, as we know, that Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a strong supporter of interfaith relations, and that is why he opened the doors to the cathedral to everybody, not just to Anglicans, but to all the faiths, to come and pray and to come and use the cathedral as a place to reflect.